When I was growing up as a child, there was a collection of stories that I used to read. It's called Aesop's Fables. And you've probably heard of it. And there are really some nice, great stories in there. And one of them, as you know, is the tortoise and the hare. In fact, yesterday, actually the day before yesterday, I was in a lecture listening to Shaykh Muhammad Sharif, and he actually blanked out on the identities of these two animals, right? So he was like, it's a turtle versus a rabbit, and I was like, no shit, it's a tortoise and the hare. And the difference between a hare and a rabbit is a hare is nastier, wilder, and just like larger, right? And one of the stories in Aesop's Fables, in it is the story of the fox. So the fox is extremely hungry. So this fox goes around and I wouldn't even know how to describe the way how a fox moves, but walks, trots, prances around, I don't know. So this fox is hungry and it walks around and it sees a vine of grapes. It sees a vine of grapes. So the fox is like, I am going to get some of these grapes because I'm hungry. So the fox starts jumping up and down and it doesn't get any of the grapes. It doesn't get the desired result. It doesn't get any of the fruits. So in utter shame, the fox just like angrily says, the grapes are sour and I don't want it. I never wanted it in the first place. Now, how many of you here have studied human psychology? Come on, even if it's one class. If you take one class of psychology, raise your hand. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who else? 6. Only 6 people here have taken psychology. I highly recommend every uncle, every child, every auntie, every daughter, every sister to take some classes in psychology. And that is, one of the things that psychologists have talked about is that, and inshallah we're going to be talking in much more depth tomorrow at Masjid At-Taqwa, organized by Shaykh AbdulRahman Chao. And we're going to be talking tomorrow about the issue of identity. Not like, what's your identity? I'm a Muslim, so subscribe to I am a proud Muslim at facebook.com, right? So one of the things that psychologists they have talked about is the concept of motivation. I'm not talking about simply the idea that I'm motivated to do something, but the idea of a cause and effect. People do certain things because there is a direct impact it's going to have on their lives. So a person works because if he doesn't work, right, if he's just sitting home lazy all day, then perhaps someone could say, okay, he's not living up his duty as a citizen, he's not making the money, he's not a good husband, blah, 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 he's lazy, etc., right? People work for everything you do while you're alive is to affirm your identity. Let me say that again. Everything that you do, whether it is eating, sleeping, talking, working, it somehow is meant to reaffirm your sense of identity. Now, you might not think of it as that way, but it's actually happening subconsciously. So one of the things about human psychology is that every person wants to enhance something within themselves. Everybody wants to do that. So let's take one aspect that people always want to have, and that is intelligence, right? Everyone wants to be known and understood and perceived and recognized as intelligent. No one would ever want to be described as being what? Stupid. What else? Foolish. Let's say right? No one wants to be known as a bahal, right? Everyone wants to be like the shabash, nice beha that everyone loves, and it's like ye kya baat hai, so smart. Right? Everyone totally wants that. So the thing is so as a result, if someone came to a person and said, "You're stupid," right? If someone went to a person and said, "You're stupid," now in psychology, a person would not accept that because that is an identity marker stupidity is something that is hurting his image. So what do you think the person will do when he's called stupid? Ibrahim, what do you think? Okay, so this is actually, every single response has a psychology-driven mentality, right? So when a person says, no, you're stupider, right? Even though grammatically it doesn't make sense, but I get the point. So when a person says, you're more stupid, right? What is he trying to say? Basically, he's saying, I am smart enough to know that what you have said about me being stupid is stupid. Right? That's what it really means. Or it could mean, no, the fact that you think that I'm stupid because you don't know who I am, that makes you stupid. So for whatever reason it is, a person might say it like, okay, what other responses could a person say?
I'm not stupid.
I'm not stupid. But is that simply just going to finish the discussion? I'm not stupid, and he's going to convince the world, hey, I said I'm not stupid, so I'm not stupid. What do you think a person would do? Huh? A person could get physical, right? But what else? What else? I mean, don't think like a defensive response. What do you think a person would naturally do if they were? He would convince someone else he's not stupid, or he will do what? Or he will actually go and do something or learn something new to prove that he's not stupid. So, for example, if you tell someone who's gotten a PhD, and you're like, you're stupid, he could say, what? No, I'm not. I got a PhD. Right? So some people, the way how they respond when their identity is under threat, and not just saying identity, an aspect, as we'll talk about it tomorrow, a content of their identity, whatever is threatened, they will simply do whatever it takes to improve that image. They will try to enact it by acting smart. Maybe they're doing it in a very, very bad way. Or maybe they defend this. Or they go and seek it out, right? So you think that I'm poor, you think that I'm not successful, so I'm now going to go and work triple the amount, so I'm going to get like tons of moolah and greenbacks, and I'm going to get all of this money, and so when I roll in with my Rolls Royce, who's stupid now? Right? So if we look at this, if we try to think about the psychology of a fox, right? The fox wants to eat. Why do you think the fox wants to eat?
Because it's hungry.
To enhance its what? His body. Enhancing your body through food is a type of identity content, physiological content, right? No one would say like, let me just, and subhanAllah, it's the opposite side when someone refuses food because they think that by refusing food, that's going to enhance their body image, thus anorexia, bulimia, right? So a person eats because they believe that if I eat, I'm going to be healthy and I'm going to be good, right? So the fox, this is how the psychology works. The fox is like, I'm going to eat these grapes. Now the fox goes for the grapes. What did we say? Does he get the grapes? He doesn't get the grapes, right? So what do you think is going on in the mind of the fox when he doesn't get the grapes? What's the feeling associated with not getting them?
Failure.
Defeat. There's defeat. There's also shame. We'll talk about that. There's also shame. There's also disappointment. So how does a fox deal with his shame of failing? So the sour feeling of disappointment, this is one of the things in psychology, is he projects it. What does he do? The grapes are sour. No, you're sour. So the grapes are sour, right? So he says the grapes are sour, and he says what? I never wanted the grapes in the first place, right? So what is he trying to, he's trying to undo what? This is called undoing. What is he trying to do? He's trying to say, yes, the shame of me failing of doing it, the only way I can make myself look better now is by saying the grapes are just stupid or dumb, they don't taste good anyways, so forget the fact that I even tried. The fact is now I'm smart enough to realize that the grapes are not even worth my time. Have I lost all of you guys yet? Okay. You might be thinking, I thought the lecture was about conversations between God and the devil. Where the heck did a fox pop in? It indeed pops in. See, I firmly believe that from the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us over and over again about the story of Iblis and the story of Adam alayhi salatu wassalam. And I believe that there are many, many lessons that we could learn from it. In fact, I would say for anyone who's like a psychology nerd or psychoanalysis nerd, the story of Iblis is indeed a treasure trove of the way how people or things behave under pressure and things. So make sure, and so inshallah, make sure that you follow along because we're going to try to explain certain things. So is that feeding back? Yeah. What's the, no problem. So I'm going to go over the story of Iblis and Adam very, very quickly with you guys. We all know in the Quran, in different parts of the Quran, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He talks about Him creating humans, right? He creates Adam. We know this story. Everyone heard of it somewhere. And we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the angels that I'm going to create a Khalifa on the earth. I'm going to create someone who's going to represent my will. I really don't like the translation of vicegerent. No one even understands what that word means anymore, vicegerent. Right? The best translation for Khalifa means someone in which God's legacy can be left. Khalafa, to be left. So God's will can be done on earth. So at this point, there are two creatures or subspecies of creatures that hear this, right? So you have the angels that are sitting there in the heavens, and you have Iblis sitting among the angels. And of course, Iblis is a jinn. He's not a fallen angel like you find in Catholicism. He's a fallen angel, that he was an angel but he became bad. No, he was actually a jinn. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given him two things, and I want you to hang on to these two things. Allah had given Iblis honor, and He had given him knowledge. So Allah honored Iblis by allowing him to sit with the angels. Indeed, that's a great honor. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Iblis knowledge by allowing Iblis to know more about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Honor and knowledge. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the angels, and Iblis is sitting there with the angels, even though he's not from the species of angels, right? Malaika. And a lot of people in Islam have a kind of a skewed understanding of what angels are. They think like angels are perfect. And I would probably say that that kind of an answer is half right, half wrong. Just because an angel does not ever make a mistake, it doesn't mean that angels don't have an intellect. They do have an intellect. And sometimes they can be wrong in the way how they think. And I'm going to prove it to you in the Quran. So, two things happen. The angels say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the first thing is, and by the way, when I say they make a mistake in the way how they're thinking, it's not because they're doing it on purpose to anger Allah, but it's because out of ignorance. So they say to Allah, أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءَ. Are you going to create this human species that's going to go on earth and like kill and do everything, right? And just like cause havoc and mischief. So of course the angels have this assumption. They assume that this new creature is going to come and like wreak havoc on earth, and it's just going to cause all this fasad. So what does Allah say to the angels? And of course Iblis is sitting there. إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. I know what you do not know. I know what you do not know. And if you look at the tafasir, the mufassirin have said that the reason why the malaika thought that this creature is going to cause so much mischief is because they looked at themselves. They looked at themselves, and you have like these trillions and trillions and trillions and gazillions of angels, and they thought, well, we never disobey Allah, we never do any of these things, we never do any bad things. So naturally, anything that's not going to be perfect, or I'm going to like to use the word perfect, anything that doesn't make us sin like we are, like we as angels are,